Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN 0919, VIN 919. This is a 2016 paint code 223, which is caviar black metallic flake with LA20 or black interior with standard carbon fiber trim. This popped up at Carvana with 81,000 miles on it and $43,000 in Ohio. Now it looks like it's a Kentucky, Wisconsin car most of its life, and then it's popped up now at a dealer in Ohio. So definitely rust belt type of car if it is winter driven. So that remains to be seen. You'll have to ask for some better photos, look for underneath. I've never purchased a car from Carvana, so I don't know how that whole process works, but we'll get into the photos here in a little bit. Production statistics. Black with black interior is the third most common color combination that you'll see on these cars. First and second is white with red interior. Second is white with black interior. And then third is black with black interior. Out of the 2,348 cars produced for the US 49 market that I've identified, everywhere except Hawaii, 447 were caviar. Out of those 447, 225 had LA20 interior, black interior. Specific for 2016 though, there are 284 out of the 1,418 cars that I've identified for the US 49. Of those 284, 148 had LA20 interior. So this car is at its rarest, one of 148, but there are 225 that exist in this exact color combination throughout all 5 years of production. So definitely not rare as far as that goes. But Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a 3-owner, 1-accident vehicle. In January of 2022, it says it's a minor accident and it doesn't actually say where. Epic VIN shows this as a 3-owner, no-accident car. So AutoCheck shows this as a 3-owner, 1-accident car, the accident matching what Carfax shows, but it does give you a little bit more information. It says the bumper was repaired or replaced, but it doesn't say which bumper. It doesn't say it's the front, doesn't say it's the back. So if you really want to get into it, you're going to have to look a lot closer to figure out what was repaired. There's a lot of question marks there. Previous sales. So it first went on sale in March of 2016 with $87,500 in Wisconsin, and it looks like it also sold in March of 2016. So one of the quicker selling cars compared to many of the others that you've heard me talk about. June of 2017, $66,000 with 4,500 miles in Wisconsin still. And then 3 days later, they dropped it to $63,000. So price is going down. It was still for sale in June of 2017, and they dropped it to $62,000. They're probably competing now with the 2017 model years. Next sale was February of 2021, $43,000, so same price, but 4.5 years ago. Same price they're asking now, but 4.5 years ago, with 52,000 miles in Kentucky, and that also didn't have an accident on it yet either. Pretty crazy when you think about, I said the values on these cars are holding strong. This is evident. The person that bought this car in 2021, minus inflation and running costs, basically drove this car for free for 4.5 years. Not many cars you can do that with. So now, October of 2025, $43,000 with 81,000 miles at Carvana in Ohio. So now onto the pictures. The pictures are very typical Carvana. So you get a 360 view. You can drag your mouse or your finger on your phone and you can see all the angles. One of the things that caught my eye on this car right away was the driver's side rear door. And I'm showing you here right now. You can see it's got just like a different type of reflection. And if you flip it around and look on the other side, that doesn't appear there. So there's definitely something going on with the driver's side rear door. I don't know if it was related to the accident or not, or if there was something that was just touched up, who knows? But there's obviously something going on there. So speaking of the accident, look closely at the bumpers and check for alignment. Pop the trunk, kind of peel the seal back, see if you can see any overspray, anything like that. On the front end, it's easy to take I can show you. On the front end, it's easy to take this piece off, which is the cover over the radiator. There's about 8 to 10 clips there. It takes 30 seconds, and then you have full access to behind the bumper to look at any possible repairs. It's a quick way to gain access to the front of the car just for viewing, for repairs, things like that. So that may be worth your time just to kind of put your mind at ease. If it was minor, if it really was minor, maybe it's just a parking lot boo-boo or you hit something in the road. Who knows anymore? But there's just go into it knowing that there's some prior damage that's been repaired, but that door, that driver's side rear door, is definitely concerning to me. Other things I noticed, the grille surround on the front, the picture's kind of far away, so I had to zoom in. The grille is discolored, and that's something that you see pretty often on these cars when you use the wrong chemical to wash it, or some of these automated car washes, they use caustic soda in some of the chemicals, and it reacts with the chrome. It's just a plastic piece that's covered with chrome, and it discolors, and that looks like what's going on here. That piece, which I've replaced on my car, that piece is like $500 or $600 if you were going to replace it, but this is a driver quality car, and so I wouldn't worry about it. I'd probably just get in it and drive it. Some other things I've noticed, all 5 carbon fiber pieces on the interior, on the front, that all commonly delaminate, they're all delaminating, or at least starting to delaminate. The one that I'm not 100% sure on is the piece to the left of the steering wheel, because there's not really a good angle, even using the 360 camera. Can't really get a good look at that, but I'm assuming because the other 4 are definitely delaminating, this one most likely is as well. The only other concern I would have is this car winter driven? And so that obviously is just get underneath, look at it, see if it's crusty or not, and move on. If it's pretty apparent that there's some pretty severe rust underneath it on some of the parts, you know, that's enough to turn me away, but it depends on what you're gonna buy it for and what you're gonna do with it. So on to the price. You've heard me talk about in some of these other deep dive videos, an accident you'd adjust the value down 5 or 6%. So I would probably put this car around $45,000 with this mileage and adjust down accordingly. That puts it at about $43,000. The thing that you have to factor in with this is whatever weird thing is going on with the door, that's bothering me, but all 5 carbon fiber pieces need to be addressed. And then also the driver's seat, it's got some pretty significant creases and wear on it. You know, it's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely heavier worn. You know, the car that I just talked about a couple days ago that has 200,000 miles on it, that seat looks better than this car with 80,000 miles. So either this car's had a lot of small trips, short trips, or it's just had kind of a rougher life than some of these other cars. But I think if you can get it for less than the asking price, you're gonna be money ahead, because these carbon fiber pieces are not inexpensive to repair. You can send it to a place like in Florida, SMA Fabrication. I have a discount code, AllThingsF. You get 10% off your order. I don't see a dime from it. I'm just helping out a small business. I use him, I like his work, so obviously like to pass on any possible savings to you guys. So let's say you get the carbon fiber repaired, and then what else? You just have that weird thing going on with the paint on the door. Other than that, like, it's not bad. It really doesn't look terrible. Once you figure out what's going on with that door, like my eyes just constantly go to that panel, and that's enough to concern me, like what else are they hiding kind of thing. If the accident talks about on the Carfax and the auto check talks about it being the bumpers, why is the door different? You know, there's something else going on there that's not reported. All right, so now on to the service history. This car is extremely well dealer serviced, and so that's great to see as well. And so other than the cosmetic stuff, it does look pretty good so far, especially for the price, the mileage. You know, it's not unreasonably high mileage, and the price is definitely reasonable. The first entry of note is March of 2016. Paint protection film was installed on this car. So I guess that would be a telltale sign. If this car had a front accident and the paint protection film was not replaced, then it's probably the front bumper that was part of that accident. But it's had paint protection film on the front, 3M paint protection film, since it was new. That is something that, you know, I've installed paint protection film in the past. You don't want to leave it on a car longer than about 7 to 10 years. Otherwise, it will start cracking and peeling, and it can make for a miserable time for the person that has to remove it. But if you're going to remove it, it's definitely worth reinstalling new on top of it after that. December of 2017, there was a cup holder rattle, and a front speaker in the dash was rattling, and it looks like they just added some foam or some shims or something and addressed that. May of 2018, the JLB recall, that's the high pressure fuel pumps, that's done. Most of these cars, that's been done. March of 2019, they noted a burning smell that smelled like syrup, and they found a rodent or a rodent nest when they removed the cabin air filter. So they addressed that, but you know, I guess I would say probably look for other rodent damage if you're going to inspect maybe in the engine bay. That's kind of all I could take away from that. November of 2021, the KLG, or that's called the 19LE05 customer service campaign was done. That is the GPS firmware update where basically if you're driving on the main highway, it shows you off on the side road or something like that. That addresses that. Another common issue done on this car. A month later, December of 2021, they reported that they ran over a large piece of metal, and it says vehicle was sent to the body shop. Now, this accident, it was reported in January of 2022, so I don't know if those are related. It kind of sounds like it. So there's your answer. Digging further, it's probably the front bumper that was repaired, or if they hit that carbon fiber piece, that's probably why they turned it in under insurance, because it's $8,000 plus. The whole grille surround's almost $12,000 if you had to replace that under insurance. That the dates match up pretty close. Like you're within a couple weeks. So maybe that is, maybe it's not, but something of note there. March of 2022 noted a suspension noise in the driver's front, and they tightened everything, no noise, and that's all that was reported. 3 months later, in June of 2022, the same noise, but they found one nut on the suspension was loose. They also did the 60,000 mile service at 60,000 miles. So another green flag. This car's had the 60,000 mile service done. It's had the KLG done. It's had the recalls done. All of the really common stuff, plus the 60,000 mile service, which is the big service on these cars, done. January of 2023 found 2 broken wheel studs on the passenger side front wheel. I don't know if that's related to maybe winter driving, not sure, but somebody cross-threaded or put them on, and so there's 2 new studs on the front. September of 2024, the 75,000 mile service was done, and they replaced new rear brakes, pads and rotors, and 2 tires. So that's not even a year, well, that's about a year ago and 6,000 miles ago. So new rear brakes, new rear tires. December of 2024, new battery at Lexus. Carbon fiber trim was noted as delaminating, which, yes, we know. They got an estimate, but they didn't replace it. So, that's they probably got a shock. They're like, $4,000 or whatever to replace. So forget that. March of 2025 at 77,000 miles, front brakes and rotors and front tires plus an alignment. So in the last 6,000 miles, this car has 4 new tires, 4 new brakes, 4 new sets of pads, new battery as well. So good to see there. And finally, the last service in July of 2025, the 80,000 mile service, which is basically just an oil change and further inspections. The things I don't see done, or that would still apply to this car, the ZLZ program, which you've heard me talk about in other videos. The ZLZ covers the dash if it's cracking, deforming, delaminating, stickiness, anything like that. Lexus will cover any of these cars, the 2016s and 2017s, 10 years or 125,000 miles from the in-service date. And so if this car is probably early 2016, so you have about till early 2026, so probably about another 6 to 7 months left on that warranty. So if this even feels like it's the slightest bit sticky, Lexus will replace it. It's a very expensive job labor-wise if it's out of this warranty, so I highly recommend at least going to your dealer. If you own one of these cars, or if you're looking at one of these cars, have the dealer inspect that and see if it needs to be replaced, because otherwise you're going to be out of pocket over $1,000 to do that. I don't see anything about the lower front control arm bushings, which are known to cause inner front tire wear. So if you're looking at this car, turn the wheels left and right, look at the insides of the front tires, make sure you don't see any significant wear. However, it has 2 brand new tires on it, so you're going to have to look pretty close to see if there's any evidence of wear on the inside. One of the common issues on these cars that I don't see on the service history is the low pressure fuel pump being reprogrammed. Majority of these cars have had that done at the dealer already, usually early on. I don't see where it was done on this car. So if you're driving this car, turn everything off, turn the HVAC off, turn the stereo off, and listen and see if you hear a buzzing noise behind your seat. And if it's more than just a very faint noise, because the fuel pump does make a little bit noise, if it's anything more than just very faint, then you can have the dealer reprogram that. But this car is now out of warranty, so you're going to be on the hook for about an hour of labor to do that. That's about $179 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The Valley plate, as always, don't see any evidence of that being done, and it is time and heat cycles. It's not necessarily mileage. My car had it done at 52,000 miles. It's the same year as this car, And my car is even newer than this car. Mine's VIN 1455. This is VIN 919. So my car was made several months later. And so I would definitely put some money aside for that going into this. So look at it like a lower cost of entry into GSF ownership, but you're still going to potentially have to put some money into it in the future. The big pluses, of course, brakes, tires, everything's well serviced, 60,000 mile service is done. My one big concern I have with this car is what's going on with that door. My eyes just keep catching that door, and if it's really a deal breaker, you could probably get that door repainted and have it reblended into the rear quarter and the other front door. But that would be the big if. That and how, if any, how much was this car winter driven? For some people, that's not a big deal. For me, I live in the South. I'm not going to buy a winter driven car if I live in the South when you can buy a car that's been from the South, been driven in the South. So finally, would I buy this car? That's the big question. Subject to those two things, whatever's going on with that door and how much, if any, winter driving was done with this car. The rest of it looks like it's pretty much ready to go. You're gonna have to address the carbon fiber. If it bugs you, it would bug the crap out of me, so I would of course get it addressed. But some people have success wrapping it, or there's other ways around it. And it is a lower cost of entry into GSF ownership. So I don't know, it'd be one of those, like, this would be a maybe. It's not a hard no, it's not an absolutely yes because of those two things that I talked about, but it definitely has potential once you look at that. And you know, the bonus with Carvana is you at least have 7 days, you know, to take it home. If it's not living up to your expectations, take it back, no questions asked. And so I think that's the benefit to Carvana, but I think I'd be on the fence with this one. Make sure, as always with these cars, you do a pre-purchase inspection. It is worth taking it to the Lexus dealer, spending the $500 or $600 and having them thoroughly inspect the car. It will give you a much better more peace of mind when purchasing something that's $40-something thousand. So anyway, that's what I've got for you guys. VIN 919. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.